In this video, we will talk about visualizing our pivot table. So we will create charts from pivot table. Let's start with creating our pivot table. The dataset that we will use here is the same dataset, company dataset from 2015 to 2019. So let's first create pivot table. So remember the name of our pivot table is pivot table 4 here. Let's say I want to show the revenue by industry for 2050, let's say. Okay, so this is our 2015 revenue. Now, to create a chart from this pivot table, all you have to do is to go to the pivot table Analyst tab over here and select pivot table chart. This window will pop up and you will choose which visualization you want for your table. So you can see here there are buttons over here, right? So these are also the same buttons in your table itself. You can filter here, but honestly, this is considered clutter in our chart. So we can remove this, right? Just right click there and then click hide all field buttons on chart. All right. Let's sort this. And remove this. Okay, so this is our table and chart. It's the same process as to how we create normal charts, not from pivot table, but from normal data sources. It's actually the same, but we will just select from the pivot table analyze tab here and specifically select pivot table chart. Okay, let's try to create another one. And let me show you that we can update multiple charts all at once. So let me try to create another um, table. We can also create multiple charts from the same source or different sources and update it all at once if we have charts from pivot table. So let's try to create another table here and try to create another one. So this is pivot table 4 and this is pivot table 5, the newly created one. And let's try probably company. Okay. Now we will create another pivot table chart from this. All right. Let's remove. Okay. Uh, so this is our chart from this pivot table number 5. Okay. So we can update all these together all at once by using slicers. But before that, let us change the name of our pivot table first so that it will be easily identifiable. So to change the name, you have pivot table options here, and then this is the pivot table name. Let's say industry. All right, and this one, right click, pivot table options, company. Okay, we have renamed this table to industry and this one to company. Okay, we can insert slicers in our pivot table, right? So that's under pivot table analyze and then insert slicer. As you can see, slicer is under the filter group here because slicer works as filter, but it can be placed outside of your table. So it is movable. You can place it anywhere in your chart. Let's say we want region as the slicer. What happens is there will be this box. This is called the slicer, okay? And this is connected to this because again, we click here and then insert slicer. So what happens here is if we filter this, let's say I select national capital region here, our data will be filtered to those under National Capital Region only. You can do Cordillera or Calabarzon or select everything by clicking this so that you will activate multiple selection and then click. Or if you don't want that, you can just press Shift and then uncheck. Okay, that's how we use the slicer. But the most important function of this is you can connect this to multiple tables. So all you have to do is do right click and then choose slicer settings here. All you have to do is right click and choose report connections here. So as you can see, we have the industry table here, which has checked because this is where our slicer is connected. We also have pivot table 2 here. This is another pivot table inside our workbook. So we will not use that, but instead we want to connect to this company pivot table, which is this one that we have just renamed. When I check here, now what will happen is this slicer is connected to this one and this one. I click OK, and we filter. Look at what will happen to this chart. It gets updated as well as we filter our slicer, right? So that's how we use slicers. The mechanism behind this is actually connected to your pivot table, not directly to the chart. So here, it the filters on your table gets updated, and in return, your charts will be updated as well. So let me just fix this in case I want to create. Let's say I want to make this a report style of sheet now. We can do this, right? And then we can update the entire chart so that it will be a little bit more um, easier to refer to. Okay, so that's how we create charts from pivot table, and that's how we also use slicer.